It's week 12, everybody. Welcome to the NFL Power Ranking Show presented by Energizer. From our studio in Los Angeles, my name is Andrew Siciliano. This is Thanksgiving, so let's give thanks to the man on the other side of the screen, the man with a thankless job, the man who takes your slings and arrows every week for putting together these rankings. We are thankful to you, Eric Edholm.
Hey, just keep a seat open at the Thanksgiving dinner table for me, and that's all the payback I need.
We will not call you a turkey this week. We will be nice, okay? We will not carve up your rankings, I promise. Eric, put them on the screen, scan the QR code right now, and find not a turkey, but an eagle at number one. They were number one last week, and we knew that whomever won on Monday night in Kansas City would be one. Here's a hint, it's the Eagles. After them, the Ravens, the Lions, the Niners, and the Chiefs, who lost to the Eagles, are down 3 to number 5. Dolphins, Cowboys, Jacksonville, rounding out the top 8. Those bottom 3, 6, 7, and 8. Eric, do not move. I was watching the game Monday night with Steve White. We did NFL Game Day Final on NFL Network, and you're sitting there going, wait a minute, are the Eagles going to find a way to win this game? Are they really going to do this? 3 of 13 on third down, like 238 yards of offense. But they found a way, Eric, somehow.
Yeah, without much from A.J. Brown, right? He had one catch. He had the route there that probably was responsible for Jalen Hurts' interception. Not much was going right in the first half. They did have the one touchdown drive, but it felt like something changed at halftime, Andrew. This is a different team. The defense really picked it up after that. Didn't allow a single point in the second half. And the offense, look, it wasn't perfect, but they got those 2 big drives. And field position was important too. Britton Covey's return, special teams just in general were better for the Eagles in the second half. So, you think about all those things, and Philadelphia really outplayed them after halftime in all 3 phases, I would argue.
Yeah, and definitely the Philadelphia defense in the first half was probably the best unit on the field, or rather the Chiefs defense, but the Eagles defense did enough to give the offense a chance. And Philadelphia goes to 9-1. And if you want a little history lesson, kids, in the 6 previous times, this is number 7, in the 6 previous times that the Eagles have opened up a season 9-1, they have gone on to either the Super Bowl or the NFL championship game. So there's that. They are on a championship trajectory here in a brutal, Eric, middle part of their schedule. They just check off another difficult win.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you love division wins. You love beating conference foes. But if you could beat a team that beat you in the playoffs, they obviously have some history together, and a team that plays very well at Arrowhead with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, that's a big win for me, whether it had style points or not. So Philly took care of business. This is the kind of win they've been kind of used to. They kept talking after the game. We still haven't played our best game yet. So at 9-1, I think they're doing okay for themselves.
But yet it would not surprise me if the Eagles lose to the Bills in Week 12 or the Niners in Week 13. Let's get to the Chiefs, because they do drop, and I guess drop is the theme of the night. They dropped those 3 big passes on the final drive. They dropped to 5 in the power rankings. And Eric, also, they dropped the number 2 in the AFC standings behind the Ravens, which is also pretty big.
Absolutely. Look, this Ravens team, I know they've had a few hiccups this year, but the Chiefs have to be very wary. I mean, they can't play the way they did Monday night. The drops were obviously a huge storyline, whether it was Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the big one. Justin Watson had at least 2, if not 3. Travis Kelce dropped one on the late in the game, had the fumble as well. So all kinds of self-inflicted errors. The second half offense has been an issue now for 3 weeks running. So, this is a Chiefs team that, look, they're great at scoring right before the half. We know Mahomes has the ability to make some terrific plays. He and Pacheco, I think, did enough. The defense really held serve early, but just wore down a little bit too late. And, that's going to be tough against teams like the Eagles and tough against teams like the Ravens. So, you get a little worried. They lost opening week to the Lions. Some of these playoff-type tests, they barely put away Jacksonville week 2. Is this a problem for Kansas City against these better teams?
I think it is. You got to look at the schedule, and I see at Vegas, at Green Bay, Buffalo, at New England. Those are all very winnable games, and if they go 14-3 or if they go 13-4, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. But they have gone 3 consecutive games without a second half point. This is now officially a trend. And I know everyone on Twitter from Chicago, where you live, wants to point the finger at Matt Nagy and say, we told you so. It has to go deeper than just Matt Nagy. They're down 3 spots to number 5. Let's go up to number 2. The team now that is ahead of the Chiefs in the AFC standings. They lose Mark Andrews, but the Baltimore Ravens bounce back on a short week after losing to the Browns. And in your eyes, they are not only the best team in the AFC, they're the best team not named the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly make a case for the 49ers. We're obviously going to think about them quite a bit down the stretch. Maybe Detroit, this last week sort of skewed our view of them a little bit, but they're certainly capable. I just think there's a lot to like about this team, even with some of the hiccup games that they've had. I mean, you saw with even losing Mark Andrews in the 7th play of the game, OBJ steps up with a career day. Aguilar has a touchdown. Bateman has a touchdown. The run game, Keaton Mitchell's been a great little compliment to what they have with Gus Edwards and Lamar for that matter. So, they take these hits and they kind of keep rolling. I'm not trying to dismiss the Andrews injury. Probably their most reliable guy this season, along with Zay Flowers offensively. But at the same time, I do think they have some of the horses. We identified them in that game. Those 3 receivers really stepped up, and they still have guys they can throw to.
And as we tape this show here on Tuesday, our Mike Garafolo at this very minute is reporting that Mark Andrews is going to undergo surgery on that ankle. But as John Harbaugh said on Monday, Garafolo says there is a chance. It is an outside chance, but the chance exists that if the Ravens make a deep run, like maybe one that goes into February, then potentially Mark Andrews could return. Potentially. And for that, everybody in Baltimore is thankful. Speaking of being thankful, big day of football coming up on Thanksgiving as always. How about 3 games as always? How about the Lions? A good Lions team in the early window on Fox with the Packers coming to town, Commanders, and the Cowboys in Dallas on CBS in the afternoon affair. And then the night game, the Niners and the Seahawks. These are all divisional games. NFC West in the spotlight, the late game on NBC. We are here all day on NFL Network for your football pleasure. Good morning football, followed by game day morning, followed by game day highlights, and then game day final. Yours truly with your holiday nightcap with David Carr after San Francisco and Seattle. Let's talk about some of those teams on your Thanksgiving schedule. The Detroit Lions, Eric, at home, got a scare, but somehow the Bears, the Bears in your backyard, just gave them a holiday gift and took a deep shot on 3rd and 9. Tyler Scott somehow slowed down. And somehow the Lions, despite Jared Goff making 5, I believe, turnover-worthy plays, won somehow, which is a good thing, right? Because it speaks to the resilience of this team.
That's kind of how I see it, Andrew. I mean, look, obviously you're hoping that Goff doesn't have this kind of a game going forward. I think he entered the game with 5 interceptions, had the 3, and like you said, 2 that were arguably just as bad, 1 that could have been run back for a touchdown. So, the first 3 quarters did not go according to plan offensively. Goff did settle down, had the big 4th quarter, led those drives, and, scoring 17 points or whatever, in the last 3 minutes of the game. It certainly is going to be a good formula for victory if you're down 2 possessions. So that worked out really well. The defense really struggled at times, but had the 2 big late possessions, the 3rd down, the 3 and out, and then also the safety at the end of the game. So another development, Andrew, it's kind of exciting, I guess. Jamison Williams had the touchdoin, had a few key catches. I mean, look, we keep saying this guy can help him. So it's good to see him involved in the game plan and making key plays, in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, huge play there for Jamison Williams, the touchdown to even get them within sniffing distance late there in the 4th quarter, and give him another weapon. And Jared Goff is going to hurt you, and that's what he did eventually. They hung around, and why the long face there on Justin Fields? Because they blew a double-digit lead in the 4th quarter. Again, the Lions get the Packers on Thanksgiving. The 49ers are the late game. They get the Seahawks, who are coming off a loss here in L.A. to the Rams. Eric, you have the 49ers up 1 spot to number 4.
I do, yeah. And again, I could make a case for them being even higher. The 3-game losing streak certainly, marred their season, raised a lot of questions. But so far in the 2 games since then, they've come out of the bye and put most of those questions to bed for now, right? The defense is pressuring. They had 4 sacks, had 2 turnovers. Did lose Talanoa Hufanga. Can't gloss that over. That is a big loss. It happened on kind of a fluky play too. So kind of like with the Ravens and Mark Andrews, just one of those players that you thought, we can survive, but it's a really big blow here. I just think obviously offensively, the big difference, having the big 4, Kittle, McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk all together makes them so dangerous. And now that's why you see Brock Purdy last 2 games, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 11 incomplete passes. He was, at least by the passer rating standpoint, perfect to this game and looked really good the one before. So top 5 team, arguably right up there with some of the very best.
Yes, the passer rating standpoint. 158.3 is a perfect passer rating. Brock Purdy has the perfect passer rating. Walk into any bar in America and ask the average football fan, what does passer rating mean to them? Or for that matter, QBR. And can you explain how we calculate passer rating and how 158.3 is considered perfect? And nobody could give you an answer. But Brock Purdy, I'm happy. He played well, and they're good.
Yep.
And he has a perfect passer rating, so he can hang that on his wall. The team they beat up the week before, right, is our team of the week, which is presented by Truist. That team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they check in at number 8. They did the job. They won. And I guess no movement. I mean, they just checked the box. I mean, they're fine. How do you view them?
It's tough when almost everybody above them wins, so it wasn't a lot of room for improvement there. I did switch some teams around, but it was also measuring the fact that they looked so bad in Week 10 that I thought this reminded me a little bit of the Vikings getting absolutely blasted at home last year by the Cowboys. It was the first time that we said, is this Vikings team for real? They ended up hosting a playoff game, losing it. That's kind of the question that was swirling around in my mind this week as I pondered the Jaguars. Yeah, was this the most impressive opponent they faced this year? Of course not. Titans are struggling, but they took care of business. They dominated the game early. Trevor Lawrence down the field. That's what we've been wanting to see, right? Calvin Ridley, hook up with your guy. What's been going on? They did twice Sunday. Lawrence had 2 rushing touchdowns. Very good offensive day. And the Titans didn't get anything going until it was up 27-0. So impressive showing by the defense. This is the kind of bounce back game that you want to see from a team that got pummeled the week before at home.
And a huge game coming up here week 12. The Jaguars and the Texans, the rematch. Houston beat them the first time in Jacksonville. This game now in Houston. This game for control of the AFC South. That's right. Week 12, Jaguars and Texans. A playoff game for control of the AFC South. Coming up next, how about those Texans? How about the Bills, for that matter? And where are the Browns? We have 8 teams down. We got 24 to go. You are watching the NFL Power Ranking Show, week number 12, presented by Energizer. You are watching the Thanksgiving edition, the Week 12 edition of the NFL Power Rankings, presented by Energizer. The Cleveland Browns are number 9 with DTR. They win, but don't go anywhere in these rankings. The Houston Texans stay at 10 as well, followed by the Bills up 3 behind Joe Brady. Then the Seahawks. The Steelers are somehow 13. Well, they are 6-4. They fired Matt Canada. The Vikings, the Saints, and the Indianapolis Colts round out the top 16. Remember, 14 teams make the playoffs. Eric, the Cleveland Browns are 7-3 for the first time in franchise history. They beat the Ravens and the Steelers in consecutive weeks. Yet they don't move up in your power rankings. Why?
Yeah, similar as before. It's tough when most of the teams ahead of them win, but they have to be considered the one of the more improbable 7-3 teams. No Nick Chubb, no Deshaun Watson, other injuries as well. They've had to bring in running backs off the street, et cetera. I mean, it's been an impressive road to this point, albeit a strange one. I will say, Dorian Thompson-Robinson has now faced 2 good defenses in his 2 starts. I thought Sunday went a lot better than the first one against the Ravens. So credit to him, even though it was clear they had a leash on him. They weren't going to let him make too many self-inflicted mistakes. And he really didn't make that many, right? The one interception off Amari Cooper's hands. So pretty good early, pretty good late, had that one nice throw to Moore to get things started. And, it ends up defaulting, I think, to leaning on this excellent defense that might give up a play or two, but for the most part is really good. And the running backs are doing their job too. It's just a really good team effort all the way around.
It's a defense that is forcing 3-and-outs 52% of the time, which is the best this century. That is just absurd. Yep. And that defense will be needed when the Browns go on the road Week 12 in the late 4 p.m. Eastern time window against a Broncos team that has now won 4 in a row. So the Browns don't go anywhere. They're sitting there at 10. The Houston Texans don't go anywhere. They are sitting there at the Browns are 9. The Texans are 10. If the playoffs were to start today, the Houston Texans, Eric Edholm, would be in as a wild card. Think about that.
Yeah. What a season it's been, right? I think early on we measured our expectations. Rookie quarterback, first-year head coach, newish GM. They're still putting this thing together. Everything's in the draft next year. Forget all that. CJ Stroud has come out and played great, but Sunday was an important test for me. Kind of like we were talking about earlier with the Lions. You want to see them win without their best stuff. Did we think the Houston Texans could win a game like this against a very plucky Arizona team when CJ Stroud threw 2 bad picks, 3 for the game, 2 in the second half, all of them in Arizona's end of the field? So they were missing out on scoring opportunities. They came back-to-back possessions, kept opening the door for Arizona, and we saw Houston's defense kind of take care of business. I'm not worried about Stroud, but I have answered a question now. This isn't just a one-man operation. I mean, he and Tank Dell were great in the first half, but then the defense kind of took over in the second half. Run game's done its job. Devin Singletary's been a revelation lately. Just something about this team is very plucky, even though Sunday was a struggle.
Yeah, CJ Stroud is the truth. We've said that 100 times. Right now, they're the 6th seed in the AFC. The Jaguars are the 4, but that flips if Houston beats Jacksonville this week, and then Houston has the sweep, and then the upper hand win the division, and then, I know it's still November, potentially host a playoff game. The Houston Texans potentially hosting a playoff game, which is just bonkers. Also, if the playoffs were to start today, the Bills would not be in it. But Buffalo got a much, much, much needed victory over the Jets this past week. Time now for Future Champions, presented by FanDuel. The odds to win the AFC East, still the Dolphins the front runner, but Buffalo is kind of lurking there at plus 480. Listen, the Bills did not fix all their problems, but Joe Brady said he wanted to see Josh Allen have fun again. We saw that. They scored 30 points, and they move up 3 spots in your power rankings. They're not dead.
No, not at all, right? I mean, all week we feared the possibility of, hey, they fire their offensive coordinator. What happens if they lay an egg against a really good Jets defense? Thankfully for them, that didn't happen. It took some patience, right? It was a little bit slow starting, but they were forcing Allen to take stuff underneath, to be patient. And when he had the opportunity to rip that throw to Khalil Shakir, kind of guessing, I think would Sauce take a chance on it. He did. The pass gets completed, 81-yard touchdown, longest play since week 5 last year, I want to say. That's the kind of play that, look, in a vacuum, it's 1 touchdown, but I think it helps kind of give them a little mojo back, right? There is a path to the playoffs. I know they still have plenty of work to do, some tough games left, but some very winnable ones too. They can look back at all their mistakes before, but they took care of business, had their best offensive showing since probably the Miami game in week 4, and it's a step in the right direction, which is what they needed.
And the turnover was on a Hail Mary. Listen, I know I alluded to this earlier. It would not stun me if the Bills beat the Eagles this week. Philly coming off an emotional win, obviously the Super Bowl rematch, a short week. The Bills feeling good about themselves. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying this is a lock or anything like that. But if that happens and then Buffalo gets to 7-5, this is a very, very different conversation. You got Josh Allen. All you got to do is get in. Buffalo sitting here at number 11, followed by the Seahawks at 12, the Steelers at 13, and the Minnesota Vikings, who get the Bears on Monday Night Football at home, are sitting here at number 14. Now, they lost. They went into Denver. I kind of sort of thought that was going to happen, but you still like the Vikings because remember, 14 teams make the playoffs, Eric. You have them right there at the line.
I had to move them up, right? Again, it's sort of a function of what happened above them and the Bengals losing their quarterback. But yeah, I mean, they did sort of control this game and lead for most of it. The formula was there, everything except for the turnover ratio. I mean, that was the biggest thing, -3. I mean, it was some sloppy ball. They had a turnover on the first play of the game. Dobbs got away with a couple of throws. And obviously giving up that, the defense did a great job for the most part, but did give up the late touchdown drive. And, there's some positives here. The run game seemed to wake up. Madison and Chandler were really good together. We know Dobbs can make some plays as well. Jefferson, we still think he's on the track to coming back. Didn't make it back this past week, though. So again, they've done enough this season to this point to put themselves in a position to get in the postseason miraculously. But this is a game that reminded them, I think, that they can't play so fast and loose on the road.
And another reminder, when Justin Jefferson does come back, he's coming back for the Vikings. He's not coming back for your fantasy football team. Okay, write that down. Stop messaging him, please. The team they lost to, the Denver Broncos, where are they? Longest active winning streak in the NFL. Does Eric Edholm like them enough to put him in a good spot in the power rankings? That's coming up next. You're watching the NFL Power Rankings Show, presented to you by Energizer. The Denver Broncos have the longest active winning streak in the NFL. They've won 4 in a row. They're up 3-17. The Bengals plummet without Joe Burrow, down 6-18. Then the Chargers and the Bucks at number 20. The Raiders at 21. The Packers, the Falcons, and the Los Angeles Rams. Eric Edholm, what do you think of the Broncos? I mean, they're not really doing much offensively, but Russ, when needed, has made big throws down the stretch, and that defense has forced 12 turnovers the last 3 weeks.
I mean, look, I think I've already done my mea culpa on Vance Joseph. Obviously, early in the season, things weren't looking great. They've made huge strides in that department. Not perfect. Run defense should be a little better, but still impressive on that side. And as you pointed out, there's still inconsistencies offensively, but they have, I would argue, a superpower now. Russ finding Cortland Sutton, 5 straight games they've hit for a touchdown pass, and 2 straight where it's been in the spectacular fashion. So after a game where Sutton's had some drops and fumbles and stuff, Russ hasn't been perfect. They seem to find a way to come together when it's most needed.
Okay, and they won in primetime, and yeah, the Broncos right now are a thing. The Bengals, however, lost in primetime, but they also lost their quarterback for the season. You have Cincinnati at 18 with Jake Browning now at quarterback. I mean, they're kind of toast, aren't they?
I think so. Look at their schedule, first of all, right? I mean, they have equal number of home games and away games, haven't been great on the road. We don't know much about Browning. He looked all right at times in relief, but still, expecting him to be anywhere close to Burrow's level is going to be very, very tough. So I think they were on the outside looking in, even with Burrow, had he not gotten hurt. And like I said, with Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, even a plucky Indianapolis team coming up next, they've got to be near perfect and still hope for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to be healthy down the stretch. To me, yes, too much.
Plucky is your favorite word of the day for this show. I wonder if it applies to the Green Bay Packers, because they have won a couple of games against the 2 LA teams. They are making power moves presented by Energizer. Look at the Packers. Edholm, you've got them at 22. Plucky.
That's what they are, I guess, right? Jordan Love, I mean, this is the game we've been waiting for a long time. Again, you could say the Chargers haven't played great defense this year, but we wanted to see it, right? And especially with those young playmakers. They got Musgrave involved, Dontarian Wicks, and finally Christian Watson didn't have any catches early in that game, but came up with some big ones later on. So that's the connection we want to see happen. Worried about the Aaron Jones injury. That's a problem. But they're finding a way with A.J. Dillon and Love sort of picking it up a little bit. And the defense keeping scores low, Andrew. That's a big part of it as well.
They are finding a way somehow. We haven't forgotten the bottom of the power rankings here. For your dining and dancing and Thanksgiving table argument pleasure, the Jets at 25, followed by the Commanders, the Titans, the Bears, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Patriots, and the Carolina Panthers. That does it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Eric, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and enjoy your football.
You too. Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that.
Hey, We're going to try. Happy Thanksgiving out there, everyone. Be sure to watch NFL Network coming up all day on Thanksgiving because we're here for you. We're working hard just for you.